Ce film-là, ça fait longtemps, moi, que je le suis. Il avait fait une campagne de crowdfunding il y a 2 ans de ça. J'avais trouvé que c'était super. J'avais donné mes 30 $. Après ça, j'ai continué à les suivre. Ils sont venus l'année dernière à Fantasia, au marché, juste pour rencontrer des gens. Et puis là, ben, cette année, ils reviennent finalement avec le film. Après avoir fait South by Southwest et plusieurs autres festivals. Mais on avait vraiment, vraiment hâte de présenter le film à la crowd de Fantasia parce que je pense que c'est vraiment fait pour vous. So we've been following the film for a very long time. I think the Fantasia crowd is the perfect crowd for this film, so we're really, really excited. And I would love to introduce you to Josh Johnson, the director of Fantasia.
Hello. Welcome to the Canadian premiere of Rewind This, everybody. A lot of things that Steph just said are really relevant to this screening because this has been a long time coming. Steph and Mitch from Fantasia have been tireless supporters of this film. Before we had even finished making the film, they were already getting involved with our crowdfunding campaign and supporting us, contacting us through email, already excited to show the film. And then Steph has been involved with us the entire way through after we finished post-production to selling the film and getting it to people. So a huge round of applause for Fantasia. And then, most importantly, what she said is also correct. This is really the perfect audience for this film. We came last summer to participate in a panel because Steph invited us, and it was our first time in Montreal and our first time experiencing audiences like the ones here at Fantasia. And it kind of spoils you in a way to spend time with an audience that is so enthusiastic about movies in a very unpretentious and really genuine way. And this film, is made by 3 people with very little, financial or corporate support. And we did that because we love movies, and the subject of this film is one that enabled us to make movies and discover movies. So this is really the perfect audience for it, and I don't want to say much more because we can get into that in the Q&A afterwards, but we're really excited for you guys to see it, and we can't wait to talk to you afterwards. So see you soon.
Let's welcome Josh Johnson, the director, Carly Mitchell, producer, and Christopher Homer, videographer and editor.
Hey everybody.
Hey everyone. So thanks so much for coming out. This was probably one of the best reactions to the film that I've ever seen. I was like, I'm going to see the intro, then I'm going to step out. But you guys were so awesome to listen to, react to the film that I sat down and sat through the whole thing again because you guys were great. Thank you.
Also, we know you guys, or at least some of you probably have a date with Bobcat Goldthwait on the other side of town. So, if we don't get to your questions because we need to, clear out, if there's anybody that's hanging around and you do have questions, just find us outside and we'll continue the conversation there.
Exactly. So maybe we can just start with the questions straight away instead of chatting around. Yep.
Where can we buy this, actually? This movie? Is it for sale?
It's going to be for sale. The digital launch of the film in all English-speaking territories is August 27th. There's a 2-week exclusive with iTunes, and then on September 10th, after that 2-week exclusive expires, it'll be on all digital platforms. So if you subscribe or have access to any kind of digital download service or click-to-pay site, it'll be available then.
Only for download, though?
And hopefully physical going after that. And we hope for VHS as well. We're working through all of that right now.
Out of these video stores that you guys met that still are in business, how do you think they keep things afloat? Is this all about nostalgia, or they have new clients? I mean, where do they find the new clientele? Is there any new interest in that field, or are they slowly all dying, or how is it going?
They are pretty much all slowly dying. The interest there is not new clientele. It's mostly the same customers that have been keeping them in business. And then, you know, they do get some new people that are excited about having access to some of these things. But I think even with the passion and support that exists for them, it's, you know, their days are numbered, all of those places.
And I would say it's mostly cultural, especially like in, you know, the ones that we filmed at. They have, it's that clientele, but they do trivia nights. They sponsor screenings at, you know, different theaters, local theaters. They do things to become part of the community, therefore the community supports them. Yep.
While doing this, well, during the movie, we talk about the fact that a lot of stuff is going to disappear when the video is engraved in like 20 or 30 years max. Did you come across any kind of effort to kind of digitalize all these old stuff just for posterity?
Actually, through the process of screening this film, we've noticed at some film festivals, people have approached us and said, you know, I'm starting an archive, I'm getting people together to actually put things, you know, in a decent digital quality, and, you know, capture that and make it accessible to larger audiences. But to be perfectly honest, and this is a terrible way of doing it, the biggest archive is torrenting. You know, and you don't know if it's going to be there tomorrow or the quality of it, you know, but that's what's going on right now, really.
There's actually an organization here in Quebec that I encountered 2 days ago. I went to somebody's apartment, and yeah, I see them here right now. And basically, they have a mission to digitize every French dub of every film released onto VHS here in Quebec. So, you know, even some of the films that are featured there, like Deadly Prey, you know, they've digitized the French dub release of that. So, I mean, there are amateur efforts to archive this stuff. It's just the question of how to get the government involved and how to do it on a large enough scale that there's actually no risk of losing this stuff.
Yeah?
What sets your film apart from the other VHS documentary that's making the rounds called Adjust Your Tracking? Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I believe you're in it, actually. Yeah, I think the key difference between the two films is that while collectors make up some of the characters of our film and kind of inform the larger questions that it asks, it's not necessarily a film that's strictly about collecting. It does kind of tell the early history of video story and explores where video is going in terms of the disappearance of physical media and all those things. But there are definitely topics that are touched on in both. I mean, there are even a few quotes that are exactly the same. They're just from different people, but I mean, they're saying verbatim the same thing. So I think if you watch this and you thought it really doesn't go into video collecting enough, which is something that I'm involved with or passionate about, that's a film that you can, you know, go to if you get a richer experience of that. And if you watch that film and you thought there were, you know, topics that it didn't touch upon about the industry, then this is here. So I sort of think they can function as companion pieces, really.
Yes?
I enjoyed the film a lot because I remember the heyday of VHS very vividly. It's sort of shocking. It's 30 years ago now. One question this film didn't quite answer, and I was kind of curious as to whether it would. My memory of DVD taking over from VHS was around 2000. Suddenly DVD was everywhere. The VHS was disappearing so rapidly after being around for so long. I wonder if in what year, or did it happen almost immediately, did DVD sales start to beat VHS? Or when did it, was it around 2000, 2001, or was it earlier or later? That's something else.
Yeah, I mean, DVD was introduced in 1997 and wasn't an immediate success, but it wasn't, you know, the sort of Laserdisc thing where it, you know, essentially only became a format for collectors. You know, it increasingly got more and more popular and sold more and more all of the time. So it was in the early 2000s where it really overtook it, and then video started, you know, slipping and slipping and slipping. And then in 2006, they stopped manufacturing it as a commercial format. So the reason that timeline isn't really laid out in the film, as well as, you know, the story of Laserdisc and some of those things, was just a time function that, you know, once it became clear that, you know, the early birth of video and videotape itself was going to be the main focus, it was too difficult to get into those things without taking either too much time on them so that the film became too long, or to reduce it to such a short little bit of the film that it didn't actually answer any questions or get into that information. So we ended up just excising that altogether.
But we will have a lot of extras as part of our release that include things like the Video Nasty story, Laserdisc, other stories like that that we actually, this, a 90-minute film, we had 140 hours of footage over a 3.5-year period. So as you can tell, there's, this movie could have been 20 different movies. We just had to distill it down into the best film that we could that would be entertaining and insightful. But there are definitely additional pieces and stories that we have the components for. Yeah.
How did you choose and fetch your talking heads? Because you have such a wide range of people, from directors, collectors, to really a lot of people. So how did you manage to say, okay, I'm going to choose this one, all the way to Japan? So how did this all came about?
I mean, we started talking to friends, people that we knew that were kind of plugged into this world, and they were the first people that we started documenting. And then once we decided to expand beyond where we were shooting at the time, which was Central Texas, we just kind of made a wish list, people that it would make sense to talk to. Let's say we go to Los Angeles, who are the people that would be there that we should talk to? And then once we had the funding to go to Los Angeles, we would contact those people, but also ask them, who else should we talk to? And so a lot of it was really referrals. We did get most of the people we wanted to talk to, but some of the other voices that are in there were recommendations and people that we weren't necessarily planning to.
So how long raw footage do you have? I mean, how many footage of film, of interviews do you have?
Yeah, I mean, how many did we have in the final?
How many interview subjects?
I mean, the raw footage, I mean, everything you shot before even going into the edit, how long did you have to go through to actually...
How long? I mean, we had about 140 hours to go through, and I think we had something like, was it like 60 interviews?
No, it was more. It was like over 100, like 100.
Oh, you're right, yeah, it was. Oh my God. And it was very sad, too. I mean, I kind of forget some of this stuff over the years, but it was very sad too, because it was people that we loved, and they had great lines, and they had great subjects we wanted to explore, and it was like killing babies to take them out. And it's like, but nobody wants to watch, a 400-minute movie. So
special features.
Could make a second one.
Yeah.
Is there a holy grail that these collectors are still in search of? Like the guy was talking about like a $400 tape, one of those bootlegger guys. Are there still titles that these guys are still hunting for? And do you know any of those, like the names of them?
just go to eBay. I mean, honestly, go to eBay and look by the most expensive.
No, just like specific titles.
Something we did as we did this, as we made friends with collectors, we actually have lists. We asked everyone for the films that they're looking for, because as we were going all over and interviewing people, we were also tape hunting. And so we physically had lists of what everyone we had talked to was looking for. So yeah, there's quite a few titles.
And what was like the most that they spent on a tape?
I mean, somebody initially, while we were making this, spent just under $700 for a copy of Tales from the Quad Dead Zone, which you see featured in the film. And then now Black Devil Doll from Hell, which is also featured by the same filmmaker, has sold for more. And then recently there's been, upwards of $1,000 paid for tapes. I mean, probably the holy grails are those two films, and then also, for a while, there was this one on the Mogul label called Demon Queen. But the thing with all of those films is there's a company in Michigan, Massacre Video, that has put out DVDs of them now, so that lowers the value, except sometimes they do still sell for high value because people like the original tapes, but the scarcity is a big part of what drives that value up, and a lot of those films, people are smart enough now to recognize if it's going for that much on eBay, there's a demand for this, let's actually mass manufacture a new version of this film and get it out there.
And you actually came across a holy grail during this process.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a t-shirt of a film that I really love called Science Craze, which was shot in Toronto in the late 80s and then released on 1991 on video. Never had any other kind of release. And that's something that I was looking for years and couldn't find, and was very scarce. And doesn't even turn up on eBay. It's not even that it's too expensive, it just doesn't seem to really exist. And somebody that we did an interview with after South by Southwest found it in a video store in Detroit, Michigan, and just bought it and mailed it to me. So.
Wow.
That's one good aspect of working on this movie.
One of many.
For interviewing people like Bill Margold, how much attention did you want to give to the X-rated world's role in popularizing video?
So the question was about, before interviewing Bill Margold and some of the XXX people, how much time and how much energy we wanted to spend on covering the relationship between the adult film business and the popularization of video. And I think we actually thought we would want to do a lot more than we did. There's several interviews, and there's several that we cut that were kind of involved with that world. And it's really like maybe 5 minutes of the film, but we actually thought that was maybe going to be a much larger portion of the film, so we were actually always struggling to find more people from that world to add to the film. So we thought it would be bigger than it is. It's probably about a fourth or maybe a third of what we originally thought it might be from the finished film.
Another question? Yeah?
I really like the movie. Some of the collectors I saw, a few of them were, I just found it funny, in the background they were storing their VHSs flat. And I was kind of wondering if there's such collectors. I mean, I always thought you just store them upright so they hang. And I was wondering if you mentioned that, or they ever say, I know kind of like space, but I thought it was funny they were storing them flat, being a collector.
Yeah, I think it is space because VHS, it's hard to find shelves that fit perfectly for VHS, but if you lay them flat, that's about the depth of a normal bookshelf. And so if you have lots of titles, that's just the way that they stack the best.
And no, we never criticize how anybody organized their collection at any point.
Jason?
Great film, guys. Congratulations.
Thank
Did you
you.
want to call the film Be Kind, Rewind, when it was already taken?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to answer that question because that film had long been out when we started. So, I mean, we knew it was never going to be an option. But, you know, when we did start discussing titles, I definitely remember bringing that up, and that it was kind of unfortunate that wouldn't even have been an option to consider. But we don't have any kind of like vendetta against Michel Gondry if he's in that title. I mean, but I don't like that movie very much, so it also was kind of, it was doubly frustrating because it might have worked as a title for this, and it got used up on a movie that I hate. So.
We have time for one last question. Yeah?
What brought you to this subject? Do you collect VHS yourself, or it's your friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? No, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of us in our generation, like, you know, there's a certain nostalgic element to it that we grew up, you know, and we're very excited to go to the rental store and to flip the covers and, you know, the feelings that gave you and the power, in a way, to control your movie experience. But then, I don't know, I think that it's something that kind of like carried with us to this day. And, you know, it's funny also to think about a whole generation of people who never really got that video rental store experience. And I feel like that, myself, personally, has greatly affected how I view wanting to watch a movie. And it drives me crazy in a way. I love Netflix Instant and Hulu and all these other things, but I can't grab it and flip it and see some, you know, bizarre image and some tagline, you know, and get caught up in it that way. It just doesn't work like that anymore. And so maybe there is an element of nostalgia. And then more than anything, though, for me, it's an element of archiving. Is like keeping these things alive that otherwise would just deteriorate.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the reason that I collect videotapes is I'm also looking for things that are only available that way. And there's thousands of titles, so the only way to see things. So, I mean, I wasn't even initially collecting, is that I was finding these films to be able to watch them. And the easiest way to do that was usually to buy them because the stores weren't renting them anymore. So I kind of developed a pretty large collection just as a film obsessive wanting to see films, not so much from a collecting impulse. And now I have a large collection just as a byproduct of that. But for me, you know, this era that is being depicted is the only reason I'm a filmmaker. I mean, I had access where I was living, which was not in a major metropolitan area, to almost every film I could ever think of or want to see. And it made the idea of movies seem endless because it was a large store with more things than I could ever get to. And that made it seem like, you know, movies, you know, went on forever. And it made it seem more realistic in some way that I could actually make films. And then with camcorders, you know, the shot and video filmmakers that you see here, I was able to start doing that when I was 7. And it would have been very difficult to get my family, who don't know anything about movies, to allow me to shoot on like a Super 8 camera, and they wouldn't know where to take it to process it and all of that. I was able to teach myself because it was user-friendly, inexpensive technology. So I feel like I owe everything in my life to the home video revolution. So I'm really glad to be able to have made a film about it. No last comments, but if you do have questions, you know, feel comfortable asking them in front of people, or if you just want to talk to us, we'll be outside, so come chat. We like to talk to people.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.